What were some of the things that you saw working during the facilitation that we did for 2 hours with a very diverse group?
I think it was conversation. I think that one of the things that I noticed from going around a number of the tables was that people were talking. It wasn't generally about people with opinions looking to force them on their colleagues at the table. It was about sharing ideas, and I think that's something that you often don't see. I also think one of the things was that people were listening. They were listening to what other people had to say and responding. Which is kind of a positive thing. I think part of understanding what the future looks like and how you get there is that everyone has a say and everyone listens to what other people have to say. I also saw that there were tables where the first thing they did was to stand up and introduce themselves. They'd been sat there for 90 minutes, and before the workshop started, they really hadn't introduced themselves. So a number of tables, the first thing you saw was people standing up and introducing themselves. This is who I am. This is the organisation I represent, so that everyone knew, the background of the participants. So that was good to see as well.
And we asked them in that opening section if they would discuss how I see this session being useful to me. What difference do you think that made?
I think it kind of gave everyone an opportunity to input right from the very start. Often you can get groups where there's a dominant individual, or the issue is more relevant to one party or another. I think being able to say this is how I see it being valuable just set out right from the start that everybody was trying to get something out of it. Everyone was looking to kind of play a role in it. So I think it just created a really nice kind of starting point for the discussions.
We, in Solution Focus, we work with the way the client is, and in this case we actually structured it quite a lot. What's working, what are some of the problems, what needs to get better, and what would we see happening in 2024. How do you think that was useful to them, that it was structured in such a way?
I think that there was enough structure that they understood what was being asked of them, but I don't think the structure was kind of strict enough that they felt they were constrained by it, which can sometimes be the case. So it was nice to see that you heard of some of the conversations. I think people were scratching their heads when they saw the big piece of paper that went on every table, thinking, okay, well, it's just going to be a question and answer, and it's going to be kind of very process driven. But I think that once they got into it, they realised that the questions and the paper was really there to guide them, but not to kind of restrict what they could write down. Some of the questions were very open but very specific, so that it kind of kept their thinking focused, but all of the ideas came in, and part of that was a discussion as well, where you'd actually hear conversations happen before things were written down. It depended on the table, but I think it was the structure just helped to oil the conversation. It gave a starting point from which then people got involved and they shared ideas, and they were kind of validating things that were outside of the scope of the question they were being asked, so that when they came to write things down, it was being kept kind of focused on what their question was on the table, or the information that was important in terms of feeding back to the group.
One last thing, an insight from you personally from the day?
I think that we sometimes see reported in the media, and you kind of hear people talk, and you think that there are major problems in the city. We know from some of the reports that have been done by various global media organisations that Toronto is one of the best cities, Canada is one of the best countries in the world to live in. And I think that for me it was nice to see that people do realise it, that despite all of the negative reporting around the things that are wrong in the city, people recognise that there's an awful lot of good, and that it can be a platform for moving the conversation forward and for creating. We often hear world-class city talked about in terms of Toronto, and this is what we're aiming for, and that people actually do realise that there's an awful lot of good, and that it's a platform for creating everybody's vision of the future.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.